I'm just gonna put this right here. Dang it. I really like Tom Cruise. Okay. The Mummy is the first installment in the Dark Universe cinematic universe. Do I need to say universe 2 times? Or can I just say Dark Universe? I don't really know. Dark Universe, where they take all of Universal's monsters and put them in the same universe, where one day they will interact like the Avengers. This movie stars Tom Cruise, my dude, as a soldier of fortune whose team comes across an ancient tomb which holds the sarcophagus of an ancient mummy. This ancient mummy is awakened, and because Tom Cruise awakened her, she chooses Tom Cruise to be the avatar of this god of death. So it's up to Tom Cruise, this buddy, and his weird love interest to find a way to stop this curse and stop this evil god of death from ruling the modern world. So when I heard what this movie was for, I was actually really excited. Because I like the idea of taking Universal's monsters and putting them in the same universe and potentially one day in the same movie. Have you guys ever seen Monster Squad? That was a great movie. Same concept, check it out. Universal tried to start this idea with Dracula Untold back in 2014, but the movie didn't do so well. I don't think it earned a whole lot at the box office, and I heard that it was negatively received. So I guess Universal decided to take the advantage of an already well-known monster franchise in order to start this franchise, and Tom Cruise is involved, so that's another reason why people are going to see this movie. It's apparent that Universal is trying to take recognizable things like Tom Cruise's face and the Mummy name in order for people to go see this movie, give Universal money, and give them a reason to come out with these films in the near future. So commercially, what they're doing, it makes sense, but is it a good movie? Okay, here's the thing. There is a lot to appreciate in this movie. I like where they're going with this concept. And one of the many tones that I appreciate about this movie was the creepiness. When the mummy is finally coming out from her sarcophagus and she's getting different ghouls and slaves to follow her, that was cool. There was a heavy usage of CGI, but for the most part, for what they were trying to do, I felt like they did an amazing job with the usage of CGI, and you can tell with some shots they were trying to be as practical as possible, but when they needed CGI, they used it, and it looks fine for the most part. For getting like a deteriorating mummy, it looked really creepy. So as far as that tone goes, I really want to see that tone in the future monster movies because I think it works perfectly in this modern day setting. It felt like this was a movie that I would watch around Halloween time. It definitely had that creepy vibe, so I'll give it that. However, notice that I said it's one of the tones of the movie. There's actually a lot of tones in this movie. I don't think this movie knows what it's trying to be. Is it trying to be a creepy monster movie? Is it trying to be an action movie? Is it trying to be a buddy soldier movie with some quippy lines in there? There's a lot going on in this movie. Before I get into character interactions, let me talk about Tom Cruise for a second. I liked him in this movie. For what he was given script-wise, I felt as though he took the words out of the script and did a good job with them for what he was given. He kind of reacted in the movie how the audience reacted, and that's something I really appreciated, was he was trying to humanize this character as much as possible. And that's something very redeemable. He tried very hard for us to like him in this movie. Even though he's only this soldier of fortune guy, he's only there to try to get the treasure, you can tell like he's trying to like make a performance here, and I really appreciate that about Tom Cruise in this movie. However, what I really feel hindered this movie was the character interactions. What the hell was Jake Johnson doing in this movie? Don't get me wrong, I really like Jake Johnson. I like him as an actor, I like him as a comedian, but he does not belong in this movie. The character interactions between him and Tom Cruise seem kind of forced. You don't buy that they're actually buddies, and it's really forced, and I don't really like some of the dialogue. You can tell that they were trying to be funny and quippy, and it just doesn't work. It's not their fault, it's just the dialogue, it's just the script. Speaking of the script, there are actually a lot of script complications throughout this film. For starters, in the beginning of the movie, it shows in flashbacks that this ancient Egyptian princess was mummified and buried. She's Egyptian, and it shows that her disciples buried her in Iraq. Iraq is over 700 miles away from Egypt. How the hell did they get there? Did they walk? Did they camel ride? Why couldn't they just bury her nearby? You're surrounded in sand. You could have easily done that where you lived. Why did you go all the way to Iraq? I also didn't buy the interaction between Cruise and Annabelle Wallis in this movie. I just don't feel it. You can tell like there is some history, but it doesn't show that history. It just shows her walking up to him in the first scene where they're interacting and she hits him. That's it. It's your typical movie where these two people hate each other, but they end up with each other at the end, and it's just like, that's really cliche. Come to think of it, what other movie did that? I guess this movie borrowed a lot from its predecessor. Oh, and a nerdy sidekick too? Oh, shots fired. Another thing that I will say is that the middle portion is so heavily Easter egged. Here's the thing, when you're trying to start a shared universe, you have to have a first movie that stands on its own. And then after that, if the audience liked it, have them beg for a shared universe. That's how Iron Man was successful. Look at this movie. It tried to create a shared universe within its first film. Look how that shit turned out. Like I said, the middle of the movie takes place in Britain. It's trying to shove all these Easter eggs down your throat. And it's so not subtle at all. It's just, oh, here you go guys, here's some Easter eggs. Yeah, get your little baskets out, here's your little Easter egg. Like, it's not subtle whatsoever. They are practically giving it to you. There is one Easter egg that I really liked in this. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it involves a guy putting his hand on a scanner and a name comes up. That was really cool. That was creative. I like the way that was shot. That's like one of the most redeeming Easter eggs throughout this whole film. But every other Easter egg before that, it's practically given to you. And that's just something that I didn't really appreciate. The movie thought that the audience was dumb, so they were just like, okay, like, we're just gonna visually give you this stuff. And it was around the second act where I realized that this movie wasn't a mummy movie. It was a movie that had the mummy in it. If you notice in the movie, Egypt is only in the flashbacks. And they're in Iraq for only like 20 minutes. I don't even remember seeing any pyramids in this movie. You'd think that there would be a pyramid in a mummy movie. But no, they're more focused on this Dark Universe franchise and, you know, giving you all these Easter eggs and showing you this weird organization that's hunting down monsters, and they want you to immediately go to Britain. So you know what this movie's intentions are for. It's just to create this shared universe and not first a standalone good mummy movie. And like I said, there are problems with the script and how the characters interact. One thing I will go into, I wouldn't really say that this is a spoiler because it's in the trailer. There's a scene in the movie where Tom Cruise, he survives a plane crash, but he dies first, but then he comes back to life. And Annabelle Wallis walks into the room and sees that he's alive, and she's just like, oh, hey. It's just like, what the hell? You thought he was dead. And your only, like, reaction seeing him alive is just, oh, hey. And finally, when she gets to the point where she's finally asking questions like, hey, how are you alive? Tom Cruise is just drinking beer like, I don't know. You'd think that he'd really appreciate being alive. Like, you know, just convert from Scientology to Christianity because he's just so thankful and he's gonna commit his life to God. God, Scientology. So like I said, there is a lot of redeemable qualities of this movie. Even though there's a lot of tones, I did like the action portions of the movie. I did like the creepiness that was followed in some of the scenes. But in terms of the script, the character interactions, and the whole purpose of this movie, it doesn't really work. However, I would still like to see other movies after this because I like where they're going with this. I like the production value, and I really like how they're taking this really seriously. I like how these monsters could possibly interact in the future, and I want to see more. Let's get a modern day Monster Squad. Let's do it. If anything the DCCU has taught me this month is that one movie can really save a franchise. Let's hope the next movie doesn't ruin it. So yes guys, that was my review of The Mummy. Comment down below what you thought of this movie. If you've seen it yet, like the video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and gaming content. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey, and this is Pixel Talk.